And welcome. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Shan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling you in on them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. Prime Minister Modi delivers the concluding remarks on the debate on the commitment to Indian Constitution, underscores the need to highlight the importance of 26th November, lauds the contributions of all previous governments. Debate commences in the Rajya Sabha. Leader of the House Arun Jaitley calls emergency the biggest challenge to the Constitution. Leader of Opposition Ghulam Nabi Azad says failures to recognize Nehru's contribution is a sign of intolerance. Prime Minister Modi reaches out on the GST legislation, invites former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and Congress President Sonia Gandhi for talks. India successfully test fires indigenously built nuclear-capable Agni-1. The surface-to-surface missile is capable of hitting targets up to 700 kilometers away. And India takes an unbeatable 2-0 lead in the four-match test series against South Africa, wins the Nagpur test by 124 runs. Our top story this evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today participated in the special discussion on the commitment to Constitution in Lok Sabha. The Prime Minister said that marking 26th November as Constitution Day does not mean undermining 26th January as is being charged by the Congress. He asserted that this was being done to make people aware of the sanctity and strength of the Indian Constitution. In fact,
Satyamev Jayate, idea of India, ahimsa paramo dharma. Idea of India, एकम सद विप्राह बहुधा वदंती. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया पौधे में भी परमात्मा होता है. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया वसुधैव कुटुंबकम. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया सर्व पंथ समभाव. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया अप दीपो भव. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया तेन तत्तेन भुंजी था. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुर्भाग् भवेत्. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया न त्वं हम कामये राज्यम न मोक्षम न पुनर्भवम कामये दुक्तप्तानाम प्राणिनामातिनाशनम. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया वैष्णव जन तो तेरे रे कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया जन सेवा ही प्रभु सेवा. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यम करवावहै. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया नर करणी करे तो नारायण हो जाए. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया नारी तो नारायणी. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया यत्र नार्यस्तु पूज्यन्ते रमन्ते तत्र देवताः. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया आनो भद्रा कृतवयन्तु विश्वतः. आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया जननी जन्मभूमिश्च स्वर्गादपि गरीयसी. इसी भाव के साथ मैं फिर एक बार सदन के सभी आदरणीय सदस्यों का हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूं. आपका भी आभार व्यक्त करता हूं. और आपने जिस एक इनिशिएटिव लिया जिसके लिए देश हमेशा हमेशा आपका ऋणी रहेगा. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
क्या हुआ? प्रश्न नहीं पूछेंगे. ये कोई प्रश्नोत्तरी नहीं है. प्रश्नोत्तरी काहे बात की है? किस बात का? क्या हुआ? देन एक मिनट क्लैरिफिकेशन नहीं है. It is not clarification. Yes. No clarification, please.
एक चीज मैं आप Prime Minister Narendra Modi is giving the concluding remarks on the Constitution, or the discussion over the adoption of the Indian Constitution in the Lok Sabha. Now, in a bid to end the deadlock over the GST bill, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has invited Congress President Sonia Gandhi and former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh for a Chai Pe Charcha. This is the first face-to-face meeting between the political rivals since the BJP came to power. It could be the herald of a compromise between the government and the main opposition party, not only on GST but on a number of other legislations that are scheduled for discussion and passage in this session. Let's go across to our correspondent Vishal Daya, who joins us with the latest. Vishal, finally, the government and Prime Minister Modi himself reaching out and trying to break the deadlock with the opposition. What is the opposition saying as far as the GST bill first is concerned?
Well, yes, Ishan, you're right. In fact, the meeting is likely to begin in a short while from now, that the Prime Minister's speech, reply in the lower house has come to an end. And as far as the opposition is concerned, specifically the Congress towards which this particular meeting is aimed, the reaching out from the, the top echelons of the government, none less than the Prime Minister himself, seeking out a meeting with former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and the Congress President Sonia Gandhi is clearly aimed at breaking that ice, breaking that stalemate which has been holding up the GST bill. The opposition, specifically the Congress, has made it clear time and again that it is their baby, it was their bill, they introduced it. They're obviously in favor of bringing in the GST bill, making it operational, but then there are certain reservations which they have. There are 3 points which were specifically raised by the Congress party earlier as well. One of them includes making that cap of 18% GST. That's the goods and services tax as part of the constitutional amendment, and 2 more points as well. So the Congress is saying that these concerns needs to be addressed by the government properly. If those are taken care of, then the Congress party would be on board. So this meeting assumes a lot of significance, both from the government's point of view as well as the Congress's point of view, because this is where the picture will emerge clearer as to whether or not the government manages to go ahead and assuage those concerns which were raised by the Congress party, and then it would pretty much be clear how smooth it will be for the government to ensure the passage of this bill in the upper house.
All right, Vishal, we'll leave it over there. Vishal will be tracking that meeting for us as it happens. Thanks so much for coming in for now. Now, leader of the Rajya Sabha, Arun Jaitley, today initiated the discussion on India's commitment to the Constitution. He refuted allegations of rising intolerance, while also disputing the interpretation of the word secularism, saying the Constitution was not anti-religion but anti-theocracy.
On the second day of the winter session of Parliament, Leader of the House in Rajya Sabha, Arun Jaitley, took the attack to the Congress camp. Brushing aside its accusations of rising intolerance, Jaitley asked the party to recollect the emergency when the country faced suspension of Article 21 that ensured the right to life and liberty.
That if Article 21 is suspended, because it was suspendable, the citizens of India have lost the right to life and liberty. This was dictatorship at its worst. सबसे बड़ा अधिकार जीने का अधिकार है. आज तो टेलीविजन की स्क्रीन पर कोई आदमी आकर गैर जिम्मेवार बयान दे दे तो हम उसको इंटॉलरेंस मान लेते हैं. उस वक्त तो यह स्थिति थी कि आपको नाजायज तरीके से आपका जीवन भी छीन लिया जाए. Of course there is no comparison. The difference is between a mouse and a molehill.
Jaitley also accused successive Congress governments of frequently misusing Article 356 and weakening federalism. He asserted that only the emergence of strong regional parties and an independent judiciary defeated this threat to federalism.
How many times in the first 40 years, when we almost had a one-party rule at the center, was Article 356 used against the states? The moment we realized the high importance of federal politics and the federal character of India, you had coalition governments, you had regional parties emerging, you had regional parties becoming extremely important part of central governments. This has led to the strengthening of federalism, and that is why we now proudly use words like cooperative federalism.
Warning against judicial activism, Jaitley insisted that the judiciary cannot assume the powers of the legislature. In this context, he also referred to the collegium system of appointing judges to the Supreme Court and the High Courts.
I have said it outside, I have no hesitation in repeating it. The spirit of the original Constitution in matters relating to the judiciary, today the absolute contrary of what Dr. Ambedkar had envisaged and stated is happening. Article 124 and 217, which deal with the appointment of judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court. Dr. Ambedkar in his intervention said in the Constituent Assembly, is this power to be left to the judiciary alone? And he said the answer is no. And therefore the constitution that he framed clearly said the President of India will appoint in consultation with the Chief Justice. And today we have reached a situation where the Chief Justice or the Collegium will appoint and everybody else is irrelevant.
Jaitley strongly argued that affirmative action was not about creating a preferred class. He insisted that personal laws across religions still violate fundamental rights. Referring to another challenge to the constitutional process, the finance minister underscored the need for a united fight against terrorism instead of adopting a soft approach by some sections. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The reply of the leader of the opposition, Ghulam Nabi Azad, marked some important points, a sharp rebuttal on Jaitley's address. Azad accused the centre of manufacturing intolerance. He said the BJP was trying to appropriate the legacy of national leaders while attempting to rewrite history.
Replying to Jaitley, leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad said the BJP's inability to recognize Jawaharlal Nehru's contribution to India was a sign of intolerance.
ये कैसे हो सकता है कि हिंदुस्तान के संविधान पे भारत के पार्लियामेंट में चर्चा हो और उसके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स की बात न हो और पंडित नेहरू की बात न हो? सर, इसी को इंटॉलरेंस कहते हैं, इसी को दिस इज द इंटॉलरेंस. द इंटॉलरेंस फ्लोज फ्रॉम द टॉप एंड दिस इंटॉलरेंस इज पर्कुलेटिंग डाउन अप टू द स्ट्रीट्स. दिस इज द इंटॉलरेंस that we are not able to recognize the contribution of the first Prime Minister of India.
Azad emphasized that terrorism does not have any religion and advocated executing terrorists. He, however, urged the government to speed up trials in certain cases.
जो भी हमारे रियासत में हमारे देश वो अंदर वाला हो या बाहर वाला आतंकवादी हो, बंदूक लेके हमारे किसी भी इंसान को मारने आएगा, उसकी लाश वापस जाना चाहिए. ये गुलाम नबी आजाद ने हम और आज भी कहता हूं, तब भी कहा, हर मीटिंग में कहा, कोई भी अप्रिशिएट करते हैं, लेकिन मैं तब अप्रिशिएट करूंगा जब समझौता एक्सप्रेस के लोगों पर भी एक्शन लिया जाए, न कि गवर्नमेंट को कहा जाए सेंट्रल एजेंसीज को स्लो डाउन करो.
Azad also raised notifications and orders passed by different ministers on Constitution Day.
Allocation of business rules, national festivals या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस के बारे, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के संबंध में लॉ मिनिस्ट्री, होम मिनिस्ट्री कोई बात करती है. ये मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस कहां से निकली? नोटिफिकेशन, ये मेरे पास नोटिफिकेशन है. नोटिफिकेशन इसकी निकालती है मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस एंड एम्पावरमेंट. ये सोशल जस्टिस मिनिस्ट्री कौन है? इसको किसने एम्पावर किया? ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में क्लियर है, ये इसके विचार ये नहीं कर सकता.
Azad also emphasized that the Congress kept away from the politics of hatred while accusing the government of adopting the British policy of divide and rule. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, the encounter near Kupwara district in Kashmir entered its 15th day with a fresh exchange of firing between security forces and militants. The exchange of fire lasted a little over 25 minutes, but no casualty was reported. A combing operation in the Manigaon forest was launched on the 13th of November after information about the presence of some heavily armed militants there. The army also intensifies search operations across the line of control after the attacks on defence posts and residential areas. Former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Farooq Abdullah sparked angry reactions from the BJP by stating that Pakistan-occupied Kashmir will remain with Pakistan while Jammu and Kashmir will be part of India. Abdullah told reporters in Srinagar that both India and Pakistan must engage in dialogue to bring peace in the region. He said that war was not the solution. His comments drew sharp reactions from the BJP.
वो पाकिस्तान का हिस्सा है और पाकिस्तान का हिस्सा रहेगा. ये भारत का हिस्सा है, ये भारत का हिस्सा रहेगा. फिर इसको ये बात समझ जाइए. सिर्फ एक बात रास्ता निकल सकता है कि हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान बातचीत करें और बातचीत करके कोई रास्ता निकाले.
No, how can we forget that in the year 1994 there was a unanimous resolution passed by the Parliament of India wherein it was clearly stated that as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, between India and Pakistan, if at all there is any outstanding issue, it is that of how to retrieve back the part of Jammu and Kashmir which continues to remain under illegal occupation of Pakistan even after 68 years. And I think having stated that, the position of the government of India has been very clear and very consistent over the years.
बिल्कुल बोगस बयान, बिल्कुल गलत बयान है. POK is a Pak-occupied Kashmir which has been illegally occupied by Pakistan. It is our territory.
India today successfully test-fired its indigenously built nuclear-capable Agni-1 missile. The surface-to-surface missile is capable of hitting targets up to 700 kilometers away. Equipped with sophisticated navigation system, the 15-meter-long missile weighs 12 tons and can carry payloads of over 1 ton. Strike range can be extended by reducing payload. The missile was test-fired from the Abdul Kalam Island of the Odisha coast that was earlier known as Vila Island. The missile has already been inducted into the armed forces and has proved its excellent performance in terms of range and accuracy. The Israeli military also test-fired the Barak 8 missile that's being jointly developed with India. The advanced surface-to-air missile, tested from a ship for the first time, intercepted a small drone simulating an enemy target. Barak 8 is an upgraded version of the Barak missile, which India and Israel are already using to protect naval ships, offshore gas rigs from enemies' hostile aircrafts, missiles and rockets. The project was jointly developed by DRDO and Israel Aerospace Industries in recent years and will officially become operational in both the countries' navies within 2 years. Time for some more national news stories and nationwide. The Supreme Court set aside the Karnataka High Court verdict cancelling sanction of land to Law Minister Sadalan Gowda in Bengaluru for building violations. The order came on appeals filed by Gowda and former Food and Civil Supplies Minister D.N. Jivaraj against the 2012 High Court judgment. The Enforcement Directorate issued summons to Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Veerbhadra Singh in connection with the money laundering case. The Enforcement Directorate filed the case on the 15th of November on the basis of a CBI complaint. Singh has to appear by the first week of December. The Centre for Science and Environment says farmers lost over 10 million tons of rabi crops valued at over 20,000 crore rupees due to unseasonal rainfall and hailstorm in February-April. As a result, India may have to import 10 lakh tons of wheat. As per CSE estimates, 40% of wheat cultivated area, 14% of area under pulses and oilseeds, and 4% of coarse cereals were affected by the inclement weather. The Supreme Court allowed the CBI to question former Telecom Minister Dayanidhi Maran for 6 days, turning down his petition for custodial interrogation. Maran is accused of using his phone lines for commercial use during his tenure. A bench headed by Justice P.S. Thakur directed Maran to appear before the investigating officer for 6 days from Monday. Civic authorities are fencing Bengaluru's largest Belandur lake to avoid the foam produced in the polluted water body from spilling onto the roads. The authorities called it a temporary solution after foam recently spilled onto a nearby street. Time for us to take a short break. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Some international news now. And French President Francois Hollande's efforts to expand the coalition against the Islamic State has got a shot in the arm, with both Germany and Russia agreeing to extend military cooperation. Even though Germany refuses to join in the coalition's airstrikes in Syria, it has agreed to deploy reconnaissance jets, refueling aircraft and a frigate to the region. This in itself is a big shift for Germany, who so far refrained from getting directly involved in the conflict. Russia has also extended military cooperation to France, with Russia and France agreeing to closely coordinate the airstrikes. Russian President Putin also called for a need to form a wider anti-terrorist coalition.
Улучшить обмен оперативной информацией в борьбе с терроризмом, наладить конструктивную работу наших военных специалистов с тем, чтобы избежать дублирования и инцидентов. Et notamment sur le transport du pétrole. Troisièmement, et le président Poutine vient d'insister aussi là-dessus, les forces luttant contre Daesh et les groupes terroristes ne doivent pas être visés par nos actions. Nous devons aller frapper les groupes terroristes et Daesh.
Despite calls for easing of tensions, there seems to be no end to the animosity between Turkey and Russia. The Russian president now accuses the US of giving up the position of its downed aircraft to Turkish authorities. However, Turkey seems to have softened its stand, with its prime minister saying the country was willing to sort out the tensions.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has accused the US of leaking the flight path of its downed jet to Turkish authorities. Putin said the US had a responsibility to ensure the safety of all countries' warplanes, as it was the leader of the coalition against Islamic State.
Мы заранее проинформировали наших американских партнеров о том, где, когда, на каких эшелонах будут работать наши летчики. Американская сторона, которая возглавляет коалицию, в которую входит Турция, знали о месте и времени пребывания наших самолетов. И именно там, и в это время, мы получили удар. Спрашивается, мы зачем эту информацию передавали американцам? Или они не контролируют, что делают их союзники? Или эту информацию издают направо и налево?
This allegation only deepens the row, with Russia already having decided to enforce economic retaliatory measures on Turkey. Turkey, meanwhile, has sought to ease tensions, with Prime Minister Ahmed Davutoglu calling for unity against the Islamic State. Writing for the UK's Times newspaper on Friday, Davutoglu stressed that fighting Islamic State was the main priority, but Turkey needed to protect its sovereign territory.
Bu noktada bazı tehditlerle ortak projeler durdurulabilir. Aramızdaki şu andaki bazı münasebetler kaldırılabilir. Ya bu yaklaşımlar siyasilere yakışıyor mu? Bunlar olacak şeyler mi? Önce biz nerede hata yapıldı?
Criticism for Russia's reaction apart, Turkey is still refusing to apologize for downing the jet, although Turkey admits that its forces may have issued warnings differently had they known the plane was Russian. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some sports now, and India has clinched the four-match test series 2-0, beating South Africa by 124 runs in their third test at Nagpur. Chasing a mammoth target of 310, the Proteas were bundled out for 185 in the second innings. Continuing with an overnight score of 32 for 2, South Africa were reeling for 58 for 4 when skipper Hashim Amla and Faf du Plessis stood their ground and resisted India's push for a victory. The duo's partnership was ended by Amit Mishra. Off-spinner Ravichandran Ashwin was adjudged the man of the match for his career best figures of 7 for 66. This is also Virat Kohli's first test series win as captain on home soil and marked an end to South Africa's track record of not losing a test series away from home in 9 years. With this win, India has taken an unassailable 2-0 lead against the Proteas. The two teams will meet for the fourth and final test in Delhi.
Outstanding bowling performance. Winning team.
Well, that's a wrap on this bulletin, but as we go, we leave you with this. Auction firm Sotheby's has started appraising the Imelda Marcos's famous collection of jewellery after the Philippines government decided to recover over 200 pieces of fine art once owned by the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos. These will be auctioned later. We leave you with glimpses of some of her finest pieces.
sort of justice. Of course, it could never compensate for getting back what was taken from us.